Welcome to Flip It Furniture. My name is Amy, and today we're making over this coffee table. I got this coffee table from the thrift store for only $25, and I've been looking for something like this for my home for the last few years, so I was super excited when I found it. If you guys like this video, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button so YouTube pushes my video out to more people. I'd really appreciate it. Now let's flip it. My first step is to clean my piece, and I'm using Dixie Belle's White Lightning Cleaner. All you have to do is mix about 2 tablespoons in 1 gallon of water. The little granules will dissolve with warm water. I wash down the entire piece, and then when I'm done using my cleaner mixture, I just go over it with a wet rag just to make sure that there's no cleaner residue left on my piece. While I was cleaning my pieces, I noticed some gouges at the top, and this is an easy fix. I just use Dixie Belle's mud. You just apply it, fill in the gouges or any holes that you see, and then wait a couple hours for it to dry. Then I take my sanding sponge and I sand it smooth. There are a few sections of missing trim, so I'm going to use this quick wood to fill it in. You just take a little chunk off and then you knead it with your hands. It started with a brown and I knead it until it turns white. Then I just shape it until it's the same form as the trim. Fortunately, there's a few nails poking out where the trim had fallen off, so I'm going to use those to attach this. It usually sticks on pretty good, but with those little finishing nails popping out, it's going to be really easy for me to stick the quick wood on. Now I'm just forming it with my fingers, pressing it down, and I use this little knife just to make sure that it's nice and flat. I didn't use a ton of the quick wood. I only used as much as I would need because I didn't want to have to sand and form it, so I wanted to do the best I could forming it while it was wet. And I went back when it was completely dry and I had to just sand it with a sanding sponge because I made sure that it was really close to the actual table on what it looked like, that the application was pretty thin. I didn't have to do much sanding, so that was a plus. Now all my repairs have been made, so I'm gonna prime this piece, and I'm using Dixie Belle's Boss in the color white. Using white on this table will make it so much easier for me when I have to apply my paint, and that's because I'm going to be using some light colors. So using the primer just makes sense. And also I got this from a thrift store, so the primer will cover any stains or odors that might be on it. I'm using one of the limited edition colors. It's Suzanne's favorite colors in the color Latte. This is just my base coat, so here's where I'm figuring out exactly where I want my placement. If I'm going to do blending, what colors am I going to use? Do they look right together? The base coat is my practice coat, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to be particularly neat. I just want to make sure that I'm covering all that Dixie Belle Boss. And now I'm going to use Sawmill Gravy as my second color, and I've decided the flower and a lot of the details are going to get this Sawmill Gravy as a highlight. At this point, I have 1 full coat on the entire table, including the top. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure at this point what I'm going to do with the top because I'm not loving what I did here with the practice coat. So I'm going to have to try a few different things. But for now, I'm going to focus on the bottom because I know exactly how I want it to look on the bottom. For the bottom, I've decided to stick with the color Latte and Sawmill Gravy. Latte will be mostly on the border and sawmill gravy will be used as a highlight, and I'll give it a nice blend. I've decided I want these legs to really stand out, so I'm not going to do any blending. I'm using sawmill gravy to cover most of what looks like little leaves going up the top and down the bottom and through that center. And then underneath, I'm using the latte. Now for this top. I've had to do about 3 different coats. This one is mostly sawmill gravy. I'm covering it, and I just did not like it. I did fluff on the outside, sawmill gravy on the inside. I didn't like it. Then I painted the entire top, that's what I'm doing here, in fluff, and I still didn't like it. So I finally settled on just bring what I did to the bottom over onto the top. So I'm using latte on the borders, around the edges and on this square border. And then the rest is going to be sawmill gravy. And I'll do a nice blend. This table is going to be the focal point for my living room. We're going to sit around this table during the fall and the winter, have hot cocoa, watch movies. So I really wanted to use colors that made me feel like it was warm and cozy. And I think that this was a good choice. The latte is nice and warm, and the sawmill gravy is also pretty warm. And together they gave me that look that I was going for. As I'm blending the top, I'm figuring out that I want most of this to be sawmill gravy. I'm using the latte as more of a shadow underneath the sawmill gravy. I'm just adding a little bit of fluff. I'm dry brushing it along the details of this flower. I think the color fluff will help these details to pop just a little bit more. So I use a really, really light hand and I just go over it on all the raised details. At this point in the process, I'm ready to put a sealer on. I want to seal my chalk paint. So I'm using the Dixie Belle's top coat in satin. I applied 2 coats of this. I wait about 2 hours in between coats for it to dry before I apply my next coat. I'm ready for my best staying wax in the color brown, and I use the French tip brush. I like to use the French tip brush with the wax because it really gets in all the creases. I'm not worried about applying it in like really specific areas. I just cover that entire leg, and then I take my baby wipe and I wipe back. Now that wax is gonna stay in all those details, and I have a really easy time removing it because I've already sealed my piece. If I didn't seal my piece, a lot of that wax will stay. So I highly recommend sealing your piece first. And then here I wanted to show you that when I'm wiping back, I actually wiped a little bit too much of the wax off. But that's an easy fix. You can just go ahead and apply a little bit more wax and then be a little bit more careful in how you're wiping it off. Now, when I'm done waxing, I still add a sealer, one more coat of sealer to my entire piece, but I want to wait about 3 days to make sure that my wax is fully dry. And I can add the sealer because this Best Dang wax is water-based, so it's totally fine if I put a sealer over it. Here's a reminder of what it looked like before, and here's what it looks like today. I'm so happy with the way it turned out. I did have a little bit of trouble deciding on the color placement for the top, but after a couple of tries, I think it turned out pretty nice, and it's all very cohesive. And don't forget, if you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you next week.